Welcome everybody, Midlife Gaming Podcast. This is, what episode is this? 27?
20.
27. And we got some hot news today about EA bans, GTAs, and the next COD. And then we have a listener Q&A about how to get into PC gaming. They had a question about it, and it's a good friend of ours, so we're going to go ahead and address it on the show. Steve, I think I lost you here for a second. Your video is gone. No worries. Let's see. So first up, while you're figuring that out, we can move along. So first up, we got EA is banning users. There you go. I see you now. EA is banning Battlefield 2042 technical testers. It looks like this week they had some technical previews that were running out, beta testers and everything for people that signed up. And some streamers as well as some YouTube channels are being hit with strikes as a result of them posting stuff on it. EA Community Manager has made it clear via Twitter as well that the rules were set loud and clear. There were NDAs that were agreed upon if you were to be a part of this. And if you don't, comply, basically they're going to start banning people. And it looks like, according to this tweet that I have up on screen from @PartWelsh, who is that same community manager, says that they've already removed plenty of people from the playtest in the last 48 hours, and that they won't be able to play this weekend. It looks like also a potential threat to ban them from the actual release of Battlefield 2042. Is this too far? You playtest a lot, and you've pretty much agreed to all types of different NDAs for stuff, Steve. So is this too much for a game that's coming out, soon?
So there's multiple parts of it. I agree with the banning from the playtest.
Right.
I agree with banning from future EA test.
Right.
Banning for access to 2042 itself is where I kind of draw the line. I think that's a little bit too much. I mean, I can see the justification for it, because, I mean, when you do sign these legal agreements, even the one I got, and I kind of foolishly posted something that I wasn't supposed to, and I went back and deleted it because I hadn't read over the full email completely. And so I get it. I do understand. It's harsh. It's just harsh. It's justified.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's just very harsh, because at the end of the day, the way I feel about like these playtests and things is that they know that stuff is going to get out, and in a certain way that actually helps them sell more copies of it, because people get kind of enthused by just the leaked information. And then the comparison that a lot of people are making is that Halo just had their technical playtest, and they were encouraging
Right.
the sharing of content. Yeah, so that's all I can say.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, with the line being that to ban someone from a title's release, it just seems real weird. Thank you, Dr. Pretender, for showing up. I appreciate seeing you in here every week. Yeah, it just seems a little odd, because usually most playtests or most betas, they're not specifically calling this a beta, and I think it's probably because they're testing more on the backside. Things like server congestion and where are we getting choke lined when it comes to chucking in a lot, because these match types are going to throw a lot of people into the same exact match. So I understand that they got to have technical tests, but yeah, I don't see, and I'm not a part of this playtest group, so I don't know how well it was conveyed to the people that signed up. Because I'll be honest, this is, the next AAA blockbuster title. I imagine that there's a good number of people that signed up for it that just kept on clicking next, type in my information, next. I agree, next. So, I don't know. It does seem a little harsh in general. I agree completely with removing from this test and doing, I don't know if I agree with the strikes though, because those strikes are like semi-permanent. on both platforms. So that just seems a little too intense for my taste. I think maybe a warning or even just a copyright claim, like, hey, listen, that's our video, we own those, you can't have that, and just demonetize and take it down. But the takedown really only happens if you do a DMCA hit. So I don't know. It's a little tough. It's a little tough to figure out exactly where people should be standing on this one. Does this risk their good vibes they had going into this release?
I don't think so. I think it'd probably blow over. Like it was a good little story for a day or two for people to kind of be fake furious about,
Right.
but I don't think it'll. I don't think
It's not
it'll
going to hurt their numbers
ruin.
too much, you don't think?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I'm sure the only people that are going to get really hurt are the individuals that are actually being hit with strikes and claims and all that. So,
Yeah, and they may. I mean, kind of like we were even. Our team, our development team, is releasing something here at the end of the month, and we have a closed beta that's happening. And we had a similar situation where it's like we have to be mindful of people getting impressions out because it's extremely, closed for a reason. This
mhm,
is the phase where you're just trying to get feedback to find the things that are obviously broken, and you don't. Not everyone is smart enough to be like, oh, okay, the whole reason for technical playtest is because they need the stress test and fix these type of things.
right,
Some people will take that as, oh my god, this sucks, and that's the fear of it. But
right,
it could just be like a mental kind of thing too, because literally we had the same conversation of, sometimes just the threat of losing access is enough for people to be like, well, I'm not going to do that,
right,
especially with a highly anticipated title like this. So hopefully it's more of that. I don't think I've seen, and I honestly haven't been on their Reddit, because I already know I'm buying this one, so I'm trying to kind of not spoil myself on too much info. Like, I know I'm buying this, so I don't have to digest every single thing that comes out. But
right.
I haven't seen any personal stories of people being banned, so it could have just been, kind of the
A
thing like,
handful
hey,
of people.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, because I'm, yep. I
Good.
will say, from what I saw though, like they made it completely, from what I saw, they made it completely hard for anyone to even try to fake it. Like your screen name is plastered all over the screen, like
Oh,
embedded
okay.
into the image. So yeah, unless people have multiple blurs all over, like you're gonna get caught if you upload it. So just don't.
Yeah, just and I think that's a big risk that does need to be made public. But I feel like an NDA should also be more upfront. Like again, I don't know if it was upfront or it was just like, you agreed to the 18-page, terms of service for this test. So you should have read all 18 pages before you hit agree type thing. Um, but yeah, it is a real risk that you run to have your stuff out there if it's not in a state that you're comfortable with it being out. So they have every right to do this. It just seems that it might have been a little too far, and I don't think they have. I've not seen confirmation of them actually banning anyone from the actual release, from the 2042, retail release. But that would be interesting if they actually went through with that. That might be a different story altogether. You got anything else on this?
No, sir.
All right. Let's move along to the next story, which is GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas are possibly getting remaster treatment. Credible sources on the inside have made claims that the three Rockstar titles are getting official remastered ports and possibly making their way to the Switch and mobile fronts. Seems that the source have cited several plans for the remakes, from being a sort of gift for anyone that purchased the PS5 or Xbox Series S or X version, the next gen version of GTA 5. But it seems like the plan now is just for them to be a standalone remastered title type situation set for late October / early November, with the PC and mobile ports coming out later, or I guess early next year. It's not confirmed information, so who really knows? But that's what's being told. It's also claimed that the three remasters are being built within the Unreal Engine and will be a mix of new and old graphics. Quotes. Um, the visuals are supposed to be similar to, and this is according to one of the inside sources that Kotaku was speaking with. They said that it looked like a heavily modified version of classic GTA titles, with an updated UI, but still maintains a PS2 era style of gameplay. Steve, what are your hopes and dreams for this one in particular?
Um, Honestly, like I believe the rumors. So I'll start there. It's going to be a long-winded answer. I believe the rumors because in the last earnings call that they had, they were specifically asked by an investor why they kept doing the strike downs of the modded community type of content, and they specifically said that the reason why was because it impacts their future earnings opportunities. And they what they actually, it was a little more cleverly stated than that, but it was
Right.
more like they don't attack everything, not every mod. It was specifically ones that attack that. And coincidentally enough, just recently they took down every single player mod that had been imported into the GT5 or the GTA 5 engine that was a remake of the prior
Oh,
titles. So there's definitely even like kind of what do you call it, circumstantial evidence that there's something going on there. So that said, looks like it's happening. In terms of what I would want from it, I really don't think that they can give me what I want. Like those are games that I enjoyed playing back then, and for the nostalgia purpose, like they definitely have great memories with them. But I know that they're not great to play today,
right.
and I know that Rockstar, whatever studio they're using to do these ports, I know that they're not using they're not going to bring these up to today's standards. Like they may be visually, but a lot of that clunkiness and things like that of the old engine and just the gameplay style, there's nothing you could do about it. Like unfortunately, you're not going to spend the time to make three whole new games. Like these are going to be prettied up ports, but I don't think they're going to have that much advancement in the
Oh
gameplay.
yeah.
Maybe they might. I mean, if they surprise me, kudos to them. I'll replay every single one of them. Vice City was actually my favorite one just because of the aesthetic. I felt like that was the one that captured the time period the best. Like the other
Right.
two were great, but that one really feels like it's a time period piece. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what comes out of this, but I think it'll probably be a pass for me unless, like I said, it marks off that check of also being like substantially better in the gameplay realm. Because honestly, when I get the feel for the nostalgia of that series, I go to YouTube and I type in Flash FM or I type in one of the like the last load talk show radio, literally, and I'll just listen to that for an hour. And I'm like, oh
Right.
okay, I got it back. Like it, yeah, they were good for the time, but yeah, nobody wants to play those today.
Yeah, and that was my follow-up question. Does anyone really want PS2 era gameplay to return? Like no. If anybody has taken the time to either pull out their old PS2s and play these games, or if you already own them, play a ROM on PC, if you've sat there and played it for anything longer than like 10 minutes, the controls are going to frustrate you. Like in the time it made sense because that's how we did things, but like to go backwards in time to how a over the shoulder third person shooter is supposed to be played, it doesn't feel right. Even though the PS2 did have two joysticks, two analog sticks, it still didn't hit the same way that a modern third person slash first person shooter feels today. I remember I just not that recently went back and played, I don't remember if it was Vice City or if it was GTA 3. Either way, there's a mission where you're supposed to be helping out a guy clear out a building, and you're supposed to use a remote like RC helicopter to basically lay charges inside this building and bring it down. And or not the building, this construction site, and bring the framework of this building down. And the controls for that mission are so infuriating, but I had no clue about that at the time because when I played the game originally, it felt normal, but to go back now, it feels horrible. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's how a lot of those games are, unfortunately.
I'm with you though. I think if they're gonna take the time and the money to do this, then it needs to be done right. My hope is that because they're trying to put these into the Unreal Engine, I don't. The only one that may have been assisted with Unreal Engine would have been San Andreas, but 3 and Vice City would not have been in Unreal Engine at all. I don't think Unreal was on consoles at the time. I don't think it made its way there until really the PS3 era. Not that San Andreas was on there, but it's possible at the end of the timeline that someone figured out a good way of putting it there. But if they're rebuilding it in there, I do have high hopes that they do polish up the controls a little bit, because it seems kind of backwards to intentionally reverse engineer a bad way to control things. And the controls in Grand Theft Auto 5, I feel like we're okay. They're up to snuff. They're not perfect. Hopefully no one on the Red Dead 2 team is working on this, because man, those controls were all over the place. It definitely did not feel intuitive, I would say. You had to really figure out the controls. But yeah, they've already made a Grand Theft Auto 3 remake for mobile. Came out on Android forever ago, and I think it's on iOS now as well. My hope is that they're not just going to slap a coat of paint on this code and then just republish it and bug fix it. Like, these are 3 very well thought out titles of their time, very indicative of their time, and they deserve to be given a little bit better treatment than a cash grab because you're running late on Grand Theft Auto 6 or Red Dead 3, whichever the next project will be. Excuse me. So I don't know. If it was based off of just the information that we have now, Steve, if they were bundled as one, like all 3 titles, all 3 games in one title for whatever, PC, Xbox, PlayStation that you wanted, would you buy it as one? And what would that price be?
I would. Something like this, probably $40 max, to be completely honest. Like, that seems like the correct price for this, but knowing that this is Rockstar and Take Two, they know that it's probably going to sell just off the name itself. So I could see them doing it as a full price release, but I mean, it depends, man. It really depends. There's a lot going on. Like, Grand Theft Auto 5 is getting a re-release. They haven't marketed it very well, but it's getting a re-release
Yeah.
on the next gen consoles and PC with what they're calling the expanded edition, but they haven't shown off anything from it. So
Right.
they should already have that SKU coming this year. This they haven't announced, I'm guessing, because it's probably a smaller thing. So maybe that would kind of give another hint that it's going to be a budget title, but I don't know, man. It's a the even what they're doing is kind of strange. So, well, not that strange. So, what's weird is that the rumor is Unreal. So, Rockstar religiously has used their Rage engine going back to at least, I want to say, prior to even Grand Theft Auto 4.
Right.
Um, so that's one thing. Dipping their toe into the new generation of consoles is something they always do with something, but they always use their newest engine though, because they're
Right.
trying to test out how they can get the most out of that on the new system, on the new hardware. So that part of the rumor is very strange. Unless the answer there is, okay, we're going to try out our biggest thing first, which is the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. And this kind of goes back to another comment that their leadership made on the earnings call, which was we have a lot of IP from prior years that they could bring back. So they've got Bully, they've got Midnight Club, they've got Manhunt, they've got quite a bit of other Rockstar titles that they could go through this whole pipeline with. So maybe they are dipping their toes into the into the new gen with the Rage engine for the Grand Theft Auto 5 expanded edition, but they're going to use Unreal for all of the ports of the older games. That could be exactly what they're doing. And the studio I read on Reddit, I guess the studio that's rumored to be doing the remaster actually has experience with Unreal, so it would make sense for why, okay, we're going to use them for all our ports. Let them just do whatever the hell they're comfortable with. We'll move forward into the future with our, with our own engine. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking that's probably the most likely thing. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
studio of
Rockstar
Rockstar
Studio.
that's doing it is Rockstar Dundee, who is, I read this earlier, I'm trying to find it here right now. They used to be a different company called Ruffian Games, and they worked on games like Crackdown 2, Crackdown 3, and assisted with the development of Master Chief Collection, which is in itself an entire port. So they have that history there, Maybe Unreal is just something that they're more uh, comfortable in, but I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt though. Continue your train of thought.
No, that was it.
Okay. Um, so yeah, you brought up a good title that I haven't heard of in forever. Manhunt. That
Yeah,
game
that's
got a
pretty good.
lot of flack whenever it came out. Do you think that they could get away with doing a completely rehaul of Manhunt?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In today's market, I mean that's mild by today's kind of standards. I feel
I don't
like
know,
it
man.
was.
It was pretty intense.
It was. I mean, it was, but it's nothing. I mean, at this point, like the whole craze against kind of going against video games has kind of died down too.
That's true.
Like we don't see that much of it. Like I think people respect the industry a lot more. I mean, it's the highest revenue generating industry of all entertainment.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to ignore at this point. And I'm sure, even like the people who were in the day kind of lobbying against it, now there's so much money to be made for it that they're probably getting their pockets filled just to shut up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just to keep it
So,
quiet.
yeah, so yeah, I think they could, but what's most likely though, I think, like that one is completely like cult classic. So I don't see that one at the top of their list of bringing, but Bully, absolutely. And I would say, because Bully needs a sequel, to be completely
I have
honest.
never played
Uh,
Bully, any of
oh,
them.
it's so good. Like I actually have never beat it. So at one point I need to go back and beat it on PC. I do have it. I have the port version. But the thing I liked about Bullet was like it's an RPG, man, and you're the school. Like it seems so small at first because like, oh, I'm in the school, but the school itself is huge. Like it makes sense because the school has all these distinct areas, and then the world actually opens up, and then you go out to the city, and there's a state. There's like a carnival that's there, and there's all these little cool things, and it changes with the seasons and you get grades in your classes. Like there's just so much depth to that game. Honestly, like it is a really, I absolutely recommend everyone play that at least once.
All right, well, I
But
know
anyway,
I'm gonna
yeah,
give a try this weekend too.
yeah, man. I honestly I think you would enjoy it. Play with a controller. I wouldn't
Oh
play with
yeah.
a mouse and keyboard, but it's a good game, man. And I did download it. It wasn't remastered or anything like that, but I did download it and it worked. Maybe I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago. So
Oh, nice. Perfect then.
yeah,
All
but
right.
yeah, there's a lot they could do.
Is there so if you had to pick one Rockstar title outside of GTA, it'd probably be the Bully series to be remastered.
Ooh, tough one. It would be between Bully and LA Noir for me because I love LA Noir too. Like that is
I thought the
that's a
Noir series
masterpiece.
did get a remastering not that long ago.
I'm aware of a VR port that it got. I'm not aware of a remaster. If there is one, I'll probably
Maybe
look
it's in the
into it. But
works. I might have misread something a while back. Maybe it's in the works
yeah,
then. Um, yeah, that would be interesting though. I don't really have a pick like from Rockstar titles. I would say like GTA series is probably the Rockstar title that I spent the most time with. Um, just easily. I mean, used to spend hours on Vice City as well as GTA 3. And then San Andreas came out a little late on the platform, so I don't think I spent as much time with that title. Um, yeah, Thomas is in the chat. What's going on, Thomas? We got you answer your question here in a little bit. Um, yeah, I think that would be if they do this well, I think that we might have another chain reaction of events that keeps delaying GTA 6 or whatever their next big AAA project is. Because as soon as they start getting this money in, man, they're going to just keep hammering the remake machine until they can bide their time to keep developing whatever their next big project is. Because I think I read somewhere too that whenever these rumors started to come out, updates for Red Dead Online basically plummeted to nothing almost. So it's
Red Dead Online has been dead for fucking months.
wild.
To be
Yeah.
The problem with Red Dead, I think, is it didn't leave itself open to as much exploitation as Grand Theft Auto did, just because of the theme itself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much stuff that people expect it to be, but there's a lot that's missing, man. And it is a well-made game, but the I have probably 20 hours in Red Dead Online. I've got like 1,000 in Grand Theft Auto Online,
Right.
and yeah, of course, there's some. time bias there because one has been out a lot longer than the other. But I have not had the urge to go back even when they release their updates, and it's kind of a constant complaint online that people are like, it's very obvious that Red Dead is like the Red Dead, the red step, the red-haired stepchild.
Yep.
So yeah,
All right.
unfortunate.
So let's move along to the third item. Probably not going to be on that one for very long. At the Game Awards, tweeted out a image of the next poster and said Thursday, this year's Call of Duty Vanguard will be revealed. It definitely looks like they're going back to their roots in the World War, One, World War II era. I can't tell by this plane. It looks like it might be a World War II era plane. But I mean, I think the time for old war titles is gone, right? Like we're not confused by that fact. Like I think we've talked about this a lot whenever we talked about Battlefield. Like just that old war style is done basically.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the interesting thing. I think people are a little tired of it. I know I am, for
Mm-hmm.
instance. Like as soon as I heard that this was kind of going back old school, I was like, well, I'll be skipping that because yeah, it just isn't for me at the moment. Like I want modern, I want near future, but if anyone can kind of revive a time period FPS game, it's going to be the Call of Duty guys. They demand the market. They really,
Right.
even their worst titles sell, I don't want to say tens of millions, but they sell upwards of, over 10 million. I want to say religiously every year. So they it'd be successful regardless. It's just how I think the longevity of it is the thing that'd be in question. But with them having Warzone, which was able to survive through last year's, Black Ops and everything, that might be their big moneymaker anyway. They have Warzone, so they just spit these out, every year just to kind of get that whatever, that easy 10 million that they're going to
Right.
sell every year, and then they keep Warzone moving. So maybe they're fine with that, but it is a interesting choice I thought for them to go back to this to their roots, but they haven't been they haven't been historically accurate in a while. So maybe that's their plan this year is like, hey, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna be historically accurate. Maybe that's it. Yeah, who knows?
Do you think there's going
But
to be a second Warzone release
I
with
think
this?
they could, but I mean, it's weird, man. I mean, what I would personally do, like, I would keep Warzone as a thing, and I would just have like you set your time period, like, or that the time period is a rotating thing. Like, okay, here's Warzone, the modern era, for whatever that modern
Mm-hmm.
game is. I mean, here's the Warzone that is like kind of the historic era, and then maybe if you have a near future thing, that kind of would work well with just the natural cycle of the way their games come out, with having these, each year a different studio kind of hands it off. So each year you replace one of the title cards in the Warzone kind of portfolio. That's what I would personally do, but I have no idea. I mean, they could drop it as like a DLC type thing, like, hey, here's the Vanguard DLC for Warzone. Here's a map and, some historically time period specific weapons or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one.
They'd have to
Let's
like
see the
really restrict the game modes. Like you wouldn't be able to take unless you were just going to throw balancing out the window. You wouldn't really be able to take modern a war zone that had modern soldiers as well as historical soldiers on it. That would just
yeah.
be kind of
Well,
an
that's what
awkward take.
Battlefield's doing. So
Yes, but that is in a very like intentionally set up. You are making that happen.
yeah,
Not it's not being forced upon you inside of your normal game mode that you're comfortable in.
yeah.
So I don't know. I skipped out of what was that last one? Cold War. Skipped out of that one. Chances are I'm gonna skip out of this one too. Like it took me a lot to get into modern or into Black Ops 4. I had like 4 or 5 friends that wanted me to hop on there with them, and it took my friend buying it for me in order to get me to play it, and it was fun and everything. But like even after all those hours spent on it, I still don't think that if given the opportunity, I would have actually picked it up again myself.
Yep, yep.
It's just you can only slap a coat of paint on something so many times. It's not really worth it to me anymore. But yeah, that's my take. I'll probably skip on this. Like it's nice to watch the trailers and everything for it, because I will give them that. The trailers for Call of Duty are by far, above and beyond most. So it is good. I don't think it beats that short that Battlefield put out the other day with Irish, but well, I'll keep an eye on this one to see. It really just depends on the people that I play FPS titles with to see if I pick this up or not. But I'm leaning on no at this point. You have anything else about Call of Duty, Steve?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Well, that is it for the news. Before we move on, please hit follow, like, whatever you're watching this on, whatever it is that you do, like, follow, subscribe, all that jazz. It helps us out tremendously. So now we're going to move on to listener Q&A. We would normally do the radar, but we have a kind of different lineup we're doing at the end. So right now we're going to move to listener Q&A, where our buddy who's in chat, Tom the Greek, was also on the show last week with us, asked how does one get into PC gaming, and wanted kind of like some advice, some helps, and some tips. Steve, do you remember your first like build or rebuild of a PC?
My first one was some type of laptop, um, and this would have been middle school. It was either, yeah, I want to say it was middle school. I was playing StarCraft. I feel like
Mm.
it was. Well, you know what? Honestly, I mean, if I wanted to go, I won't go back all the way to a kid because I did play all that silly stuff, and I looked up the years. So 2010. So yeah, I definitely was. Sorry, looking at StarCraft One, but StarCraft Two. StarCraft One came out in 1998. So yeah, I was definitely in middle school when I was playing that one. And yeah, it was just a laptop at the time. So I didn't even know anything about like computer specs, like updating hardware, any of that stuff. Like if it ran bad, it just ran bad. I was like, yeah, who knows why? But
That's what it is.
yeah, but I mean, it must have been decent enough because I remember having a pretty good experience, and I even remember like the Blizzard had its own like weird multiplayer thing, right? I don't remember how it
It's
worked,
like
but I do
BattleNet.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember playing a little multiplayer back then. But that would have been my first PC, like hardcore PC gaming experience.
Remember the first time you like built your own or like rebuilt your own PC?
Yeah, so I bought a pre-built in 2009. Um, and it wasn't pre-built like a manufacturer pre-built. It was like pre-built off of Craigslist.
Right.
And through that, I started kind of tinkering around, like, oh, okay, this is how you replace a GPU. This is how you replace RAM. So I'd always like I'd done at least GPU, RAM, and the a hard drive at that point. Had never done a CPU. And then like the first one I built from the ground up was probably 20. When was that? I was in Maryland at that point. So probably within like, was that 2015, 16, something like that? That was the first one I built from the ground up.
Nice.
And now at this point, I've built three.
Yeah, I think my very first laptop I had, or computer that I had, well, I was probably in middle school as well. It was still in the days of dial-up internet. My uncle had gotten it for me, and it was just a little, it was a laptop. I think it was like an IBM ThinkPad, and it was one that he had used for work. I could not game on it. Like maybe Yahoo Games is the
Yeah.
extent to what I got. I did get a CD from one of my cousins though that had like a bunch of NES and Super Nintendo ROMs, and it could run that pretty well. Um, so that's really what I would do, just using the keyboard and controls this way in order to play, Nintendo titles that I owned, of course, that I owned. And my first actual like build, I would say it was a pre-built that my dad had, like an old E-machines, which I don't think E-machines even exist anymore. I think they got absorbed into Acer maybe, but it was an old E-machines, and we're talking like the bottom floor of corporate computers from back in like 2001 maybe. And he ended up moving away from that job, and so I just got that computer from him and spent probably, I don't know, an ungodly amount of money on a 200 gigabyte hard drive at the time. and I was so happy. And then that's kind of what like fueled my obsession. Like, oh snap, I can upgrade this box, this thing. And eventually, over the years, I eventually got my hands on a nicer HP computer that had like some Intel dual core processor on it, like one of the first dual core processors on it. And I had a GTX 8800, and I rode that graphics card until the day that it died. I was, I even took it to the point where the moment I started to get like visual breakups on the screen, that I would take all the plastic parts off of it and all the heat shielding and everything, and would bake it in the oven for like a couple of minutes to kind of remelt all the solder together, slap everything back on it, chuck it in, and it was flawless again for another like 8 months. It was great. It was very good. I think the first outright build that I did, man, that had to have been a while ago, not too long ago. Like within the last 10 years, I think is when I built my first from the ground up computer on my own. I've literally just been the type of person to go, oh, this PC is fine, I just need to replace that, swap it, and eventually, you end up with a different computer over the many years. But I think before my first pre-built, or my first self-built, I I had that HP with that 8800 in it, and I just kept recycling parts out and in and out of it until, man, maybe 9 years ago at this point, is when I finally just had to upgrade and get new stuff. And then I got suckered over by that whole what was it, LGA 2033 slot, that they were like, oh, this is the next slot, and then that was the only generation of processor that they put on it. I was like, oh damn, that i7. All right, so back to the main question: how to get into PC gaming. Pre-built versus DIY. It really just depends on your willingness to learn, really. Except it's weird because now today is such a weird time in the market for PC parts and for computers, that the answers aren't going to be the same in 6 months. Like right now, I would recommend pre-built all day, every day, because it's way more cost effective right now to get anything that has a graphics card already in it, and then just build around it. But if you're getting something that already has a good graphics card in it, chances are, you're fine to just keep that pre-built for a while. So really, just it depends. What's your take on pre-builts versus DIY, Steve?
For me, do what works for you.
Yeah, it really
The
is.
the
Really is
the
it.
main thing is just make sure you're getting a good value. Like there is something that I call the convenience fee, which sometimes like even right now, I kind of want to take my PC to a shop for them to do just a better job of the wiring, because I definitely didn't do like the cleanest of that. Like I mean, it's good enough. It's not bad, but I just like sometimes I get case envy when I look at some of these other videos where people have all their shit just like perfectly tucked in and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So I even thought about doing that because again, the convenience factor. I know that I don't want to do it, but if somebody else wants to do it for $150, then cool, let them do it.
Why not?
Um, and right now, even especially, it's a good time to ask that question because there's some pre-builds that have a better value than you going out and building it yourself because of this hardware shortage. Like there's people who are buying pre-builds just to get the GPU out of them, and
Mm-hmm.
then they're selling everything else off because it's still more affordable than it would have been for them piecemealing all the hardware pieces by themselves. So my thing, like I think Jordan said there, your comfort level with if you want to do it would be the first thing. Second thing you look at is your budget and say, is it something where I'm budget constricted and I can't afford for it to be a pre-built? I need to do it all myself. And or if the pre-built has a better value. So I mean, I think the whole like there is still that kind of negativity in the PC gamer space where you tell people like, oh, I've got a pre-built, but at the end of the day, if it fucking works for you, it fucking works for you. Like there's
It
guys in
runs.
my
It
disc
runs.
yeah, there's guys in our Discord server who have pre-builts that I'm like, that shouldn't be better than mine, but they'll tell me they have better performance numbers sometimes. So, sometimes the combination of hardware that these people, that these case manufacturers have picked out is just they know because they've already extensively tested. They're like, oh, this is the best value at this price range or whatever. So, long story short, if you have to go pre-built, just make sure that it's a good value for you. if you want to go DIY, that's good too. And the main thing I would say too, like a lot of people get intimidated by just the thought of building, but it really is just adult Legos. Like you
Right.
watch one YouTube video that tells you how to do it, and you're pretty much good to do it for the rest of your life without too much without too much fear. There's a funny video I share. I think it was J2 Cents who did like it was like everything you're not supposed to do when building a PC, and it still turned on. Like he didn't use the shock straps or anything. He smeared the CPU coolant and all that kind of shit, like
Right.
the thermal paste. Like so, even then, like you have to work pretty hard to fuck it up. To be completely honest, like as
Hmm.
long as you put everything in the right spot, and like really the hardest thing is just the CPU. Honestly, just because that's the most expensive thing usually that you're putting in there outside of the GPU, and it's the most sensitive thing. The GPU slides right in. The CPU you do have to make sure you're lined up correctly and all that, but it's worth it. I mean, you can do it.
Yeah. I mean, I
Anyone
think
can.
especially with how well standardized a lot of it has become, in recent years, that it's definitely doable for anyone that's willing to just take the time to watch a quick video on YouTube or something like that to build your own. I will say that a point you brought up earlier is a very good, pro and con. The Whenever you mentioned that there's people on our Discord on the Discord that have pre-builts that run better than your manual build, your DIY build, but shouldn't. And I think that is uh, a very strong pro for the DIY buyers. Is that you're absolutely correct. These boutique shops, as well as these already pre-built people um, or shops, have really fine-tuned what equipment works best with what. But in addition to that, they usually also have already gone through all the legwork to streamline the BIOS and to streamline any type of overclocking that should happen. And they normally do bin out their processors and their parts. Bin out meaning that it's called what is it? The silicone lottery, where they'll advertise that a processor should go up to this point in speed, but sometimes you can get more, sometimes you might not get that. It all just depends on the little piece of silicone that got dropped in yours. You'll usually get up to it, but the overclocking speeds really, that's where it comes into play a lot with some. Not going to say all, because there's a lot out there that are known for not setting any of that up. It's a little frustrating when you're dropping that much money on something and you're like, oh shit, I still have to do all the DIY parts myself. So that's a definite pro, I would say, for the pre-builts. The other one being warranties. You can normally get individual part warranties on things that you buy, but it doesn't quite hit the same as being able to go back to the specialty shop or store that you got a pre-built from and say, hey, this isn't working. And normally the process is a little bit smoother than having to RMA out a single piece and then your computer's just dead in the meantime. So that's another big pro for pre-builts. For me personally, though, I like DIYing because it's like you said, it's grown-up Legos. There's a puzzle. I know what I want. I know how to get it, and I know how to build it. So I'm just going to do it myself. It allows you to play brand favorites as well. If there's brands that you trust and brands that you don't inside of the PC parts sphere as well as the PC pre-built sphere, then you can pick the ones that you want and have that comfort of, okay, I don't need to worry about things like warranties because I stuck with this brand and I trust this brand. They've never done me wrong. And it's something that you have to build up that confidence in that brand, either through your friends or through your own experience. Some of the sites, what brands have you had bad luck with, Steve? And I'll say bad luck because I know that for every person out there that says, oh, this brand is shit, there's about 20 more others that are like, no, I buy them every time. They're great. It's perfect.
Yeah, I honestly have not had bad luck with anyone. I display complete brand allegiance, so I only buy Intel, I only buy EVGA. I try to only buy Samsung for my SSDs,
Mm-hmm.
Samsung or Western Digital for any type of storage, and then My peripherals are kind of a mixed bag, but I like Logitech stuff for most of the stuff. I mean, my keyboard is Corsair,
Same
but
here. Yeah.
most of 95% of my stuff is Logitech, to be honest. So honestly, I haven't had bad experience. The only thing I've ever had crap out on me so far was a power supply that probably could have actually burned my house down.
Oh, I
If I
remember
wasn't
that picture
home.
you sent. Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah, and
scary.
that was a Corsair power supply. But when I looked it up, it wasn't a situation where I read like, oh man, it's known to do that. And I kind of think it may have been me because I did have like my desk is up against the wall. It has enough room for air ventilation on my PC and everything, but my cords are kind of tight back there because I try to keep them out the way. And I did have it kind of bent in a awkward way, so I could have caused it. It was strange. I smelt it and I was like, so
Something's not right.
who knows? Yeah, so that's really the only bad experience, but I've never had any parts crap on me yet, knock on wood.
Yeah. So I used to be an EVGA truist, and then because that's what my 8800 GTX was from, and then whenever that one finally like hard died, there was no resuscitating it. Uh, I ended up getting an EVGA. What was it? I think it was like a 360 or 370 Ti. Not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that. It was one of their middle tier cards, and it performed terrible. It did not perform up to the advertised speeds that it said, and it very well. And this is the other part that's kind of hard in the DIY space, is it could very well have been something other than the graphics card's problem. Could have been a bandwidth issue to the older processor, or the board was too old, didn't have enough lanes or whatnot. Very easily could have been one of those problems. So again, that's why I say bad luck. What I will say is, based off of my research and whatnot, the main brand in the pre-built space that I would never buy is Dell. You can't upgrade anything. You can upgrade maybe a hard drive if you're going to put like a SATA drive in it, like an actual spindle drive, or an SSD that's not M.2. But man, if you're ever interested in pre-builts, uh just stay away from Dell in general. Do your homework, obviously, because it might work out for you, but all of their parts inside are specifically built, and this goes for Alienware as well. Their parts are specifically built, so the upgrade path just doesn't really exist too much in there. It's very contained. For instance, one of the biggest things that Dell does for both themselves as well as Alienware is they have custom made power supplies, which means that if you get an upgraded card and you need more power out of it, you're not going to get that luxury of just being able to go, oh, cool, let me swap this out and let me put this one in, because half the time there's either not mounting holes or brackets for a proper power supply, or the board just legitimately will not accept that much wattage to be on it. So it's just one of those things that you really, really have to pay attention to. And for me, it's just not worth the effort, especially since the Alienware line has been bought out by Dell, like 12 years at this point, almost, probably more. They're basically just Dells with nice cases. And I'll say this, their recent R series cases do look nice. If you're looking for just a PC to have that looks great on a shelf, Alienware's it. I mean, they look great. They're uniquely shaped. They do normally have good airflow. It's just their upgrade path is horrid, and I don't like that at all. So some good resources for pre-builts. There is a YouTube channel, which I'm sure most of you already know, called Linus Tech Tips. They do a line every like year or so called the Secret Shopper, and their recent Secret Shopper series ended about 6 months ago, I think, maybe a little bit more. And it was very telling of this. They went through different, I think I have one pulled up here. Let me swap back to this page. Yeah. So their whole plot was, we're going to order a $1,500 US PC over the phone through these different buyers: Dell, HP, iBuyPower, CyberPower, Origin PC, and Main Gear. And they basically just go through the entire process. It's like 4 videos long, but it's absolutely worth your time if you're interested in pre-builts, to at least go in with knowledge of what's going on. It's very telling. They go over the shipping process, the receiving process, the ordering process, the support process that you pay for. Man, this is also where I learned that Dell really makes more money on their financial services than they do anything else, because they were pushing so hard on the ordering process for warranties. Are you sure you want to get the warranty? No. And they were so focused on that I don't know if you can see this little tower that Linus is holding over in this thumbnail off to the right. That's the $1,500 gaming PC that they sent him. Some Dell gaming branded Dell micro tower. It absolutely does not perform worth anything compared to anybody else. It's nuts. The amount of low quality that was received for $1,500. It's crazy. Did you see that series, Steve? I know you watch Linus sometimes.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
I mean, for me, it's like once you see them once, you've seen all of them. Like J2 Sense does that as well, and the guy from Gamer Nexus, Steve from Gamer Nexus. So there, I mean, it's not anything too surprising to me. But the only thing that's kind of surprising is just how bad some of them are. Like usually,
Right.
like the Walmart ones and the Dell ones. But for the most part, it doesn't surprise me too much. The support seems to suck, but I think it's also kind of unfair to even do them in today's market, just
Right.
because I know how stressed the supply chain is, and then the customer service people, they're behind. So, like when they're calling and they're complaining about the time for hold or the time to get emails back, it's like, yeah, that's pretty much every industry right now. So, but the build quality type stuff, I'll always, it's kind of, you kind of have to weigh both though, because the support thing is important too. So I understand why they do it. I just think sometimes they kind of exaggerate for the benefit of entertainment.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think what's good about this particular series though is that they go through that entire process. They don't just walk you through what they did, like you're actually watching them go through the process themselves. So it's a little bit more, I don't know, telling of what could possibly happen to you. But again, like everything else in the world of PC, it's all about, if you had bad luck with it or not. Because if one person says that they had bad luck, someone else is going to say, no, that's the way I've been doing it my entire life and it's never gone wrong for me. And that's fine. That's perfectly okay if that's how it happens. It's just, different strokes for different folks, I guess. So if you're looking for pre-builts, I mean, there is this new website that I've been looking to called Build Redo. And their main concept is that you're buying these parts at market, MSRP. And they're only charging you like, I think it's a $75 build fee. Like that's the uplift. That's their whole gimmick. And you go in here, you pick your games, you pick what resolution you want. I'm kind of surprised that 4K is not an option on this slider. And then you just kind of like, yeah, I want a better PC than most, or I want the best. And then you just hit next and it kind of builds together parts. And if you want to, you can customize it here. I will say that they're not the first people to have a, customized builder, whatnot. But anytime you're doing this, make sure you are looking out for if they're telling you specifically what kind of card. Because, for instance, and I have no clue if this is the case on this website or not, I've not ordered from them. But right here, there's an option for 1660 GeForce GTX. You have no clue what make or model or third party is building this card, or if it's a reference card. And that does absolutely translate into quality differences. If you're buying what's that cheap brand? Crystal. It's like Zotac and Crystal or Sapphire, maybe. I don't remember what the name of it is. That card's going to be dead in a year. I promise you, it's going to be dead in a year. But if you get if they say like, oh no, this is a EVGA brand graphics card, you know that there's a little bit more upfront to it. So this is my concern with building or with ordering a pre-built, is you don't know exactly what parts you're paying for, and there is a difference in these different brands and whatnot. Like, yeah, they give you good specs here, like, oh, it boosts up to this, but I mean, again, if you're ordering a pre-built, chances are you have no clue what this boost clock means. That's just your target audience, is the people that don't want to know what these are. Same thing with processors, that's pretty straightforward because they give you the model number and only Intel makes Intel chips. So you don't have to worry about that. So there's that. There's a bunch of other ones. There's like iBuyPower is another one, or you can even do local. I know that our Best Buy here that's closest to us has a couple. They moved more towards laptop world, which is an increasingly popular option for getting into gaming. But they do still have a good amount of desktop options, mainly Dell and Alienware, but they do also carry HP Omen, which is increasingly getting up there in recognition. So maybe there's that. But if you're going to take a step into building your own, just go to YouTube and find a video for someone who's taking you through the steps of it, because it's so easy. And then chances are they're going to take you to a website called PC Part Picker, where you can build your own. There's tons of guides here as well for specific ones. So if you have a budget and you want a DIY, but you're like, should be around this, should be around that, it's a good resource, I would say, a good starting point to build your stuff. And what's cool too about this website is when you go into it, they'll tell you where to get it from at what price. It's not always accurate, so double check by actually going into the store link to find it. But because they don't sell it themselves, they're just an aggregator of these different websites that host PC hardware, and it's up to you to buy them. So that's a good resource as well. Do you have any other resources, Steve?
No,
that you use? That's pretty much all I use. I would say, other than that, some other important things to keep in mind. Oh, this is an important one when that comes up every time I build a computer for someone. They'll come to me and they'll say, hey, Jordan, need a PC. If I give you X number of dollars, can you build one? I'm like, sure, of course. What's your budget? And they'll give me a budget. Say, whatever, it's like $1,500. Okay, cool. Do you already have, my very first question always is, do you already have a keyboard, mouse, and monitor for this computer? Oh, no, I don't. Great. So you're not getting a $1,500 computer anymore. You're likely getting some type of maybe $1,100, $1,200 computer, depending on what type of monitor you want. It's an increased complexity whenever you don't have anything like a mouse or keyboard. That's really what it is. And also another important thing to pay attention to is, where is your internet coming from? Because if you are on your ISP's just normal basic Wi-Fi router, you're not going to get good online gaming experience from that Wi-Fi. It's just not going to happen. You can run a really long Ethernet cable. That's what I used to do when I first started out gaming on PC. I just had a really long Ethernet cable that I ran all the way from the kitchen and all the way back to my room, and I just hardlined it in, because there's no other good way to get that. Right now we have Wi-Fi 6, but not a lot of people even know what Wi-Fi 6 is, much less do they have it in their house. But that would be another, I guess, good option if you can't hardline it. Wi-Fi is okay for gaming, but if you are the kind of person that is expecting to go and play competitively on any type of first-person shooter game, you are not going to have a good time on Wi-Fi. I've seen it happen several times. Steve, is there anything that you've messed up while building a PC? Anything you went into with full confidence and then you're like, damn, I messed this up?
No, not that I could think of. The only thing that I kind of, yeah, I do have one mistake I made. So one time I got a fan that was too small for the CPU. Like
Mm.
definitely wasn't adequate for cooling. Like I was trying to go for more aesthetics and I wanted the slim profile, so I got that dark rock slim. But after I tried like overclocking and everything, it's like, yeah, this is gonna hit it. So I had to upgrade the fan. But that's probably about the worst thing that I've done while building my own.
Yeah, and I would I'm with you on not having too many major mess ups because it's really not a thing that you can really super mess up. I've never once built even with a static cable. I've never repaired with a static discharge cable on my wrist or foot like some people do. They keep it on their ankle for some reason. Um, it's just not it, a lot of those things are built kind of tough nowadays. So you don't really have too much to fear whenever you're setting out to build your own PC. If you mess up, chances are you can just return the part if you got a wrong part and get a new part. Like you're not gonna plug something in and it just like completely fry something. I mean, I guess it's always possible, but it's never happened to me, and I don't feel I've done a whole lot of homework when I built my first one. Um, so the key is just don't be afraid of it. Just do it. It's a very fun thing to do. Very fun to build your own PC. It's not the cheapest hobby, especially not right now, but it's still fun. I still enjoy it. One last thing that Thomas had asked us about was our desks, and we both kind of had the same option. We just went to IKEA and picked up a tabletop and some legs, and that was it. I think you said you used a drawer system from them, right? As one of your sides.
Yeah, it was actually so it's a legitimate drawers for a desk. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's legitimate drawers for a desk, and then it's a desktop as well. But it was pretty simple. It's not one of those ones that requires a shit ton of screwing in. Like the desktop was not even one that you attach to the drawers. It just has like the
Oh
little
yeah.
knobs for the non-slip knobs and everything. And the desk itself, like I said, I used one without the drawers, and that's why I put my PC case in. It had enough clearance height wise and width wise and depth wise to do all of that. And then
Mm-hmm.
the other one I kept for just the simple slide in and slide out drawers. But I like it though.
Yep.
It works for me.
Yeah, I think we got like four, because in this last setup, my wife and I were kind of rearranging and rebuilding an office for the both of us since she works from home. We got like four of the same tops, and they were like literally the cheapest tops that IKEA had. They are not solid wood, but they still hold up everything. I have on one desk, I have my mic stand, I have three monitors sitting on top of it, my heavy ass arms on the keyboard and mouse, as well as a framework that I have up here for like some lights and cameras. And there's no bowing in this desk. So you don't have to go outrageously overpriced on a desk. And then I think the legs were more expensive than the tabletop. Uh, so DIY mentality as a whole is great because you just learn so much about the process, and figuring out that you don't need a $400 desk for your PC is a great feeling. I think for one of these desks, it was like $25 total, top and legs. So it was a great feeling. That's all we had for that topic. Thanks so much, Thomas, for giving that question. That was a lot of good information. We hope to have parted on everyone out there. And if any of you have other questions, feel free to hit us up on the comments or on Twitter. We'll be more than happy to answer them on stream. Steve, I think it's time now for video game 20 questions. What do you think about that?
Sure.
This week, Steve is
I'm
challenging me, and I don't have any notepad, so I'm gonna have to do this. Oh no, I do. There we go. Let me make sure that
Let
that
me know when you're
works.
ready.
Oops, nope, wrong one. Thank you. All right, I am ready.
Alrighty, so this game is part of a series. It is exclusive to a specific platform. Um, and that is the last hint that I will give you.
All right, cool. So let's see. It's part of a series, exclusive platform.
You
Is
know what, I'll
it
give you another one. It
okay?
is released after 2001.
After 2001. All right. So is this exclusive to uh PlayStation?
It is exclusive to a PlayStation platform. Yes.
Okay, so it's PS after 2001. So is this a PS2 title?
It is not.
It is not. Is this a PS3 title?
It is not.
What? Is this a PlayStation 1 title?
It is not.
Oh shit. Okay. Hang on. I missed the question. Okay,
I mean, you
so
get 3 out of 5. Or
is this a portable?
it is.
Okay. Uh Let me rephrase that question because I don't think I asked it correctly. Is this on the PlayStation Portable?
It is.
Okay. So PSP, it's exclusive to the PSP. Okay, and it's part of a series. Let's see. Is this part of the Final Fantasy series?
It is.
It's a Final Fantasy PSP game. Is this a fighting game?
No.
Oh, I missed the question. Okay, so not a fighting game. Is this a is this like a side series Final Fantasy title?
Yes. I would consider it a size series.
Okay. Is this part of the Final Fantasy VII line?
It is. Yep.
Okay. Damn. I know exactly what this is, and I can't think of the damn title again. Ugh.
You got 11 guesses, so go for it.
Oh man. Is this the game where you do not play as Cloud?
Yes.
Damn it. You do this every time to me, Steve. I get so close and I can't figure out the actual name of it. Um Man, Final Fantasy VII. I had this game. I can't even think of the guy's name anymore. Um I don't want to give too many spoilers because I feel like it might be new for people that are playing the remake. Um Shite. Man. Thomas, help me out. Whoever's in chat, help me out with this. I need help, chat, please. Um Final Fantasy 7. It's not Advent Children. That was the movie. There was not a game based off the movie either. Final Fantasy 7. Um
If it helps, Final Fantasy VII is actually at the end, not the beginning of the title.
it's at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Dirge of Cerberus, is it?
Nope.
No. I'll say that's a PS2 title. Um Man, I am drawing complete blanks here. I wish my buddy Squid was in chat. He would have helped me out. He knows what it is. Man, I, I need another hint. I'm gonna sacrifice a question.
I got a hint for you.
Okay.
The character you're looking for, well, I think it's okay. The character you're looking for is Zach Fair.
Right. Right. That's who you play as in the game. But I don't. His name is not in the title though.
Nope.
Man, this was such a fun game too to play. I can't believe I can't remember the name of it at all. Final.
A remake is planned
Yes.
for iOS and Android, and the remake is a collection, and the remake has part of the title in it as well.
The remake has part of the title in it.
Hmm?
Damn. I already know I'm not going to get this. I'm not going to get this name. And it pains me so. Dang it. Does it begin with a C? Thomas asks.
It does. Good job,
Oh,
Thomas.
is it Crisis Core?
It is. Good job.
Yes, got it.
There.
Thank you, Thomas. I wouldn't have gotten it without that question. I was
Just
about to
start
start
going
playing
through the letters
Hangman
of the
on
alphabets.
it.
Good job, man. Yes.
Oh,
So
that was a good one.
Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, action role-playing game developed by Square Enix for the PSP, released 2007. Crisis Core is a prequel to the 1997 version of Final Fantasy VII. The remake that is coming out is going to be for iOS and Android. It is going to be remade from scratch, so they're not going to follow. It's not going to be a port, and that is going to be titled Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. So a little
Ever
bit of the title there.
Crisis. This was a fun game. I remember this game, and it's very like mission based. So it's not a like a true Final Fantasy title, which I figured if it's on the PSP it wouldn't be, especially if not it was exclusive to the PSP. But yeah, it was fun. It sacrificed the open world so that they could make the visual fidelity better, and the mission based system helped out with that. So, and they still did the normal like cutscenes that looked better than the gameplay and kept you engrossed in the story. And it does have a lot of good information for Final Fantasy VII. I feel like this is the better Final Fantasy VII side title. Dirge of Cerberus was not great. That was like a weird attempt at a third person shooter for the Final Fantasy VII, and it followed oh god, Valentine, I think was his name, the vampire. And here's the other thing too, is you were playing a character in Dirge of Cerberus that you may not have ever seen or even known of in Final Fantasy VII. You have to see him at least once in the main storyline, but you don't have to have him as a playable character. And that, I think that probably did some weird, had just a weird reaction when people were like, oh, this is part of Final Fantasy VII, but they had no clue who this main character was. Crisis Core, if you played 7, you know exactly who Zack is. So this was definitely more well received. That was a good pick. I like this pick, Steve. That was a good one.
Good stuff.
Did you play this one?
I did not. No.
Did you play the PSP frequently?
Nope. Funny story. So I bought and returned my PSP in the exact same day.
Why?
I just didn't care for it. Like the PlayStation portables, like they always felt like they were trying to do I mean, obviously a portable version of the mainline games, but they were always like just a smaller version of that. Whereas I felt like the DS properly took advantage of being a handheld and at least did like they made it feel right on the DS. Whereas I felt like all the PSP games I played, like they just didn't. I forgot what I had. There was, oh, you know what it was? There was, what was that Grand Theft Auto with Lance Vance or whatever?
Oh, ooh, I know what you're talking about. Grand Theft Auto PSP.
Vice City or Liberty City Stories.
Liberty City Stories.
I feel like there was a Vice City Stories too, if I remember correctly.
There may have been. Ooh, still in box. Platinum Series, $59.99. It's yours.
Yeah, there's a Vice City Stories on PSP as well. So that was the reason I actually picked it up, if I remember correctly, was because of that. And literally, I was like, yeah, this is such a poor experience, and I returned it the exact same day. So
yeah,
did not get a lot of PSP time.
I spent a ton of time on PSP, but it's not because of the games. It was my first console that I actually modded and just took it hard and tore that thing down. I replaced a couple of different parts out of there for modding purposes. I had one of those special modded batteries that had like the extended SD card in there. I had an SD card adapter. That was the other big thing that people hated about the PSP, was that it used that proprietary Sony Micro Stick Duo or Magic Stick Duo Pro or something like that memory card, and it was expensive. You would try to load up like some movies or something on your PSP, and it you would just run out of space so fast. One of the main things that they touted it as is being this multimedia tool, but yet you had to go drop like $300 for a 1 gig memory card. Oh man, forget that noise. And that was probably the biggest reason why I modded it too, was because I wanted to be able to use a more readily available storage solution, and that was the SD card. So definitely use that. All right, so let's get into the last, I think it's the last segment, right? Yeah, what are we playing? So as we mentioned earlier, we don't have a radar, but we kind of do, because we've been playing this one. Midnight Ghost Hunt. Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so I found out about this game, I want to say sometime last year, and they have kind of I won't say strange, but they have a little bit of a cumbersome process for getting into their alpha. You have to join their Discord, and then randomly a bot on their Discord gives out alpha keys. I want to say the frequency of them doing these alphas is maybe like once per month or 2 times per month, something like that. So I've been waiting forever. I finally got the DM and it was like, hey, you've got a key and you've got one for a buddy. So I hit up Archie, and this game plays a bit like a few different games. So it has some Ghostbuster vibes in it because of just obviously the theme of the game, your Ghost Titan. But also some vibes of kind of like Werewolf, because one of the things that the ghosts have the ability to do is they could possess items throughout the map, and as you're going through, it really does have that Ghostbuster vibe. If you're looking at your, kind of your radar reader that's telling you if there's abnormalities in the area, it kind of leads you to area, and then you're kind of like, okay, well, I'm here in this corner, but which of these things is actually contains a ghost? And the ghosts themselves have manipulative abilities to where they can, make you think there's a ghost in the area. So really, it's a very fun multiplayer game. I actually originally when I thought that this was multiplayer co-op where you were just fighting AI ghost,
Mm-hmm.
but then I was kind of surprised when I actually played. I'm like, oh no, you switch sides, and Archie had the same experience because he was like, oh, done with the tutorial. I'm like, no, you're not.
There's
'Cause
another
there's
tutorial.
yeah, so that was actually very surprising, but it was a good surprise. The next good surprise was just how kind of how polished it was in terms of like the visual quality. So now I'll jump over to you. Kind of, what did you think about the gameplay experience that you and me had there?
I really enjoyed it. After you had left because you had other things to do for that day, I continued to play for at least another hour of just several. I will say it felt really polished for this being an alpha. Uh, didn't see too many like network dropouts, which is normally what you experience in an alpha of the multiplayer variety, and everything just felt really polished, really clean. The tutorial was well set up. The one thing I will say is that I felt like it was weird to have access to everything right off the bat. If there was one change I would think that would be great for the game, would be to limit your options in the very beginning, and as you level up, because there is a progress, there is an experience progress as you level up, then get these other hunter guns, get these other ghost abilities. Because as I was playing, it was very common to get into a room with people that are just using the default gun as a hunter, and the default ghost abilities. A lot of people are just like, oh, the tutorial just kind of covered this part, so we're just going to stick to these parts and not really explore outward. I had a lot of fun in this title, though. It was a blast. Hiding was fun. Being a ghost and just dicking around with the hunters was fun. Being a hunter was fun. And it really does, I feel like it doesn't super require teamwork, but they've done a great job at balancing where if you do operate as a team, like one person has the radar, another person has the vacuum, another person has a physical weapon, and a fourth person has a ghost weapon, that you can really go in there and just wipe the floor with the other team. But I think our last match that we played on Sunday morning, uh, we almost, I'm trying to think, were we, that was the one that we lost, right? Yeah. We murdered the ghosts almost instantly in the map. You only have 5 minutes, because in 5 minutes, as soon as midnight hits, the ghosts turn on you. They turn red, and they it's now their job to hunt you down.
Yeah.
So if you don't knock all 4 of them out in time, they're taking you out, and they are strong at that point, and that feels like a balanced mechanic. Uh, I mean, I'm still a little shocked at how balanced everything felt in this game. How do you feel about the balance in it?
Yeah, so I want to say that actually. Let me step back a second just for people who are listening, in case we haven't made the actual gameplay setup that clear.
Mm-hmm.
So there's teams of four. You're either the team of hunters or you're the team of ghost. The hunters, you kind of see it flashing on the screen here. We arrive in some type of vehicle to this location. During that time that we're arriving, the ghosts have already set up in that location, so they may have possessed a few items. They may just be hiding. They could be cloaked. And then the idea is the ghost or the hunters. You're supposed to exterminate all the ghosts within the 5 minutes. If they can survive through that 5 minutes, every one of the ghosts that you've captured actually gets respawned back on the map, and then they're more powerful, and then the tables kind of turn to where they can attack you. In that stage prior to midnight, they're a lot more vulnerable. After midnight, they have the upper hand. One of the cool things that happens though, so as a hunter kills the ghost throughout the map or throughout the match prior to midnight, um, that ghost actually kind of like in terms of Among Us, that ghost comes back on the map as a spirit instead of an actual ghost that has possession powers. But now what they can do is they could help their teammates out in a supportive role. So, for instance, at a point, Archie, I had died, but Archie was still alive as a ghost, and he had possessed a certain item. And what I was able to do was come to his area as a spirit, and I could chill the room, which slowed down, his attackers, so that gives him the chance to run away. Some other things they could do, they could shove a person. They really, like Archie said, they really make it very balanced to even when you die, like you're not even out of the game. Like, in a lot of shooters and stuff like that, you die. It's like, okay, I could watch the kill cam or whatever, but there's always something for you to do. Even if you die as a hunter, you could be revived by someone who has a defibrillator. One of the other things I was going to say, so you had mentioned you kind of wish that they had the system to where you were unlocking
Yeah,
the weapons and
progression.
stuff. Yeah, I kind of see that, but then on the flip of it, it's kind of like what you just said as well, where although it doesn't demand teamwork, people can kind of naturally do the teamwork thing because they've played the tutorial, and if they see the person, the other people that they're playing with, okay, they've already got, that one of the weapons that does massive damage. I'm going to go for a stun type weapon, or oh, we already have a guy with a radar, so I'll get the vacuum. So I think that was the reason why
Right.
it was like leave everything open, that way you guys can play with different, kind of different things. But I do agree they should have maybe like some perks or something, or maybe like how the Juggernaut, for instance, gives you additional health. Maybe you have additional health at this level for this, but then at level one it goes to this, and at level two it goes to this, just to give people a better idea of like, hey, this is what the big benefit is of this
This
particular.
particular thing.
Yeah, but honestly, I think I don't know what their plan is for release, but they kind of, I would say they need to release it. I can't even say they should release it soon. They release it when they release it, but I feel like it's already a very good, solid game, so they should get out here to more people. But maybe it's I mean, even us when we played, there was actually map variety, so I can't even say there was a lack of map variety. Like it has everything that you kind of expect from a game already. I don't know
Yeah,
what the big
and
thing is
the
that they're waiting
maps
for.
feel very different based off of what side you're on. Like if you're going to a map as a ghost, mm, you're gonna find the little hiding holes here and there, and things that you can hide up. Like I think in our first match we were in a museum, and I was like, oh snap, there's a bird.
Oh yeah,
What is the term? I can't think of the term right now.
skeleton bird
No, like
cage.
stuffed bird basically.
Oh, okay,
Taxidermied. Yeah, there was a taxidermied bird up like outside of the main plane of view, and I ghosted into that. I took it over and just was rocketing pieces because I had the telekinesis perk, and so
yeah,
I was just rocketing pieces of furniture into ghosts or into the hunters, and was taking them out via
yeah,
that way. But then as a hunter, you still, because you take up so much more space than a ghost does in their, you know, lamp. So the maps is very hard to describe. The maps feel different depending on what you're playing it as.
Yeah,
It's
I agree. If
yeah,
anybody's played Prey, it was kind of like that. And Prey, the last one that came out, you could possess items and things in. It was a lot like that because you can, like Archie said, you can get as small as like a. There was a one of the maps had like a music room in it, and I don't know
mm-hmm.
what the hell this little click clacky thing is, but it's got one of those. It's got like a little pendulum in it, and it makes like a little ticky sound, but it's so small. But I
Oh, the
got in that, and I
metronome.
was yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm like, this is perfect. It's so tiny. So I just put myself because you the thing I like about it, it forces you. It's such a silly premise when you're playing it because there's so much goofy shit and like when you die from someone, you don't even like.
You're
Sometimes
not
you get
even
frustrated,
mad.
but yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, there was like I got hit by a shoe or like a vase or something like. But it makes you think strategically because you're like in this clip that we see here there's this little lamp on the ground. Okay, well obviously that lamp's out of place, that's the ghost, but like Jordan was saying, you have telekinesis, so you can make things look like they're ghost out of place while you're actually in the corner laughing at the hunter, who's wasting his time on this thing. So it is a really good game. I can't say enough about it. I think I'm gonna try to reach out to these devs and see if we could open up some type of relationship for them or something.
That would be
Maybe
awesome.
we can get some extra keys for the next alpha because they definitely need to spread the word. I don't even remember how I found out about this, but as soon as I found it, I was like, let me get in the server because I do want to eventually play it. So I'm glad that opportunity finally came. It's definitely been a while
This
that
is
I've
going
been
to be a
waiting.
hot game whenever it releases. As long as they like market themselves properly, this is going to be a top notch. We're going to see this on streaming sites all over the place.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I think so.
did you
I
ever
think
play
so.
in the theater?
I don't remember if I got the theater. No.
So I think it
I
was
remember
the
like the swampland with like the warehouse. I remember this old house. I remember this
pirate
music
ship one
place.
in
Yeah,
the
those are
museum.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
The so I think it was like the match after you had left on Sunday. I was playing in the theater and I was playing with people that were in outfits I hadn't seen yet. So I assumed that they had been playing for a little bit, and they had such an interesting take on what was happening, because what we did was we possessed like large pieces of furniture, and then we were clogging up hallways with it, and we would just go and repossess something else, because you're not stuck inside of an item whenever you possess it.
Yeah.
So we would go possess like a large couch, move ourselves into the hallway, pop out as a ghost, and find another piece of equipment, and we would create chokeholds, which
That's actually smart. Yeah.
made the map completely flow different. And you can move the equipment as a hunter. You can beat it out of the way and whatnot. But if you're someone with like the ghost rod, visit like the I forget, like a ghost baton, you're not going to do much damage to those big furniture items. And that's the other part too. Lost you again. That's the other part too. Is the equipment. I can hear you. Yeah, your video just went out. The uh equipment is not all the same. There's damage ratings, there's physical versus ghost damage ratings. There's stunning abilities, survivability skills. Like there's various balancing acts being done. There's a ton of balancing that has been put into this, and it felt really really polished. I'm with you. I don't think I have really anything bad to say about this game.
Yeah. Kudos to them. Kudos to the guys. I'm happy for them.
Happy for them. Yeah, you let me know if you get any more keys. I'd love to play this again and play this with some more of our friends, because it would be great to see like what like true teamwork looks like in
Oh
here.
yeah.
Because I can just imagine that it's great, and they have a good call out ability too. Like in some games, you have 18 different call outs based off of what you're trying to say. This one, it's just middle click on whatever it is you're trying to tell someone to do, and it already knows what it is. Like if you see a ghost pile because you just killed a ghost,
Oh yeah.
you can just middle click the shards and it'll tell everyone in chat, hey, I need the vacuum here, and then it adds a waypoint for everyone to look at. So it's a good, even if you're not a mic type of person, it's good to it still feels great if it's all silent comms. It was good.
I concur.
All right. Well, that was it for this episode. Let me go back to this. Thank you everybody for showing up today. Appreciate you all. We do this every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, on Twitch here, and then the video, the VOD, goes up tomorrow on YouTube. So if you missed something or you want to revisit something like our PC versus pre-built conversation, go to YouTube. It'll be there. I promise you. And if you have questions, ask it in the comments there. I'll answer you, or I'll ask Steve if I don't know of something, or I'll find something out, and we'll get you a good answer there. Appreciate you all. Steve, you got anything to plug before we bounce?
No, sir.
All right. Y'all have a great week. See you next time.
Adios.